I want to hurt him.
Yeah.
That's my mentality right now going into this fight, because I really want to do damage.
He's definitely gonna get punched on. I feel like, you know, he's a lot of heart. He's a lot of heart, and I think that's why he switched back. He had the Cuban coach, and I feel like that wasn't gonna work out well for him, because I mean, he can't learn that type of style that, you know, the Cuban coach is teaching. That's more cultural, more, you know, rhythm and things like that, and things that I feel like he don't have. You know, he's a more of a, you know, kung fu fighter, you know, hard, you know. And you know, I feel like he's pretty good. He's good. You know, he beat Terrell Goucher. You know, he beat Tony Harrison. You know, I think he beat them on the back end of their career. But you know, I feel like this supposed to be his coming out party against me, so I'm super excited.
I'm expecting the Errol Spence was fighting.
Yeah.
Kell Brook back in the days. You know, that type of fighter, but
The atmosphere changed instantly when Errol Spence Jr. and Tszyu finally stood face to face. The moment they began exchanging words, every bit of mutual respect gave way to pure competitive intensity.
But he's very good at that.
Yeah.
You know, and it drowns you.
Yeah.
He's got a very stiff jab, and the jab is very consistent. So I think that's probably going to be the hardest part. But yeah, this fight is going to be a relentless style for me. I'm looking to just bring the heat.
Yeah.
And let's see if he can match it.
Yeah. Man, I really don't care. I mean, I'm excited. I dream about stuff like this, man. You know, it kind of give me chills now, coming out and everybody booing. They get me more pumped up than anything. People booing, throwing stuff, you know, angry. That really takes the nervousness out of me. Like, I'm not nervous anymore. Like, people booing and saying things and yelling and screaming. That's like the movies we used to watch as kids, old Spartan movies and stuff. Like, you going into, you know, you going to war. So
Tszyu didn't hold anything back. Looking Spence directly in the eyes, he warned that this comeback would leave him with only one memory: regret. He insisted Spence should have eased back into boxing with a tune-up fight instead of stepping straight into the ring with someone determined to prove he's still one of the most dangerous fighters at 154 pounds. But Spence had no intention of letting those comments go unanswered.
All out war. Me, I think a one-sided fight. I think he's gonna give it everything that he has, but I'm definitely gonna put on a great show and show the fans of Australia, show the world that Errol the Tszyu Spence is back, and y'all will respect me after this fight.
In your mind, I know we said about breaking Errol, but in your mind, you must feel like this doesn't see 12 rounds on your side.
For sure. That's what I'm going for.
I was reading an interview done with Sporting News Australia, I think, and you said about beating him better than Crawford did. Is that also the mentality in your mind as well?
Well, that's his last hooray that he had, you know? So I want him to come back to the memories and do.
Spence immediately fired back, confidently predicting that Tszyu wouldn't survive beyond the third or fourth round. That's the kind of belief that only comes from a fighter who still sees himself competing at the highest level despite everything that's happened over the past few years. And honestly, that's what makes this matchup so intriguing. Spence hasn't fought since his loss to Terence Crawford in 2023. After spending nearly 3 years away from the ring, most fighters would have chosen a safer opponent to regain their timing. Errol chose a completely different path.
I just want to ask you a couple things in boxing. How do you see the Errol Spence Tszyu fight playing out, man?
Oh man, that's gonna be a great fight. If Errol gonna be himself, he should win. But we don't know what he got left.
Yeah.
So, but if Tim come in and be himself, he'll push Errol to the edge.
Do you think that's like a true 50-50 fight, like a crossroad fight for both those guys?
No, I don't think so. I think Errol probably will.
Think Errol?
Yeah, I think he probably will.
I say you still got the juice. He did 200,000-300,000 views in a week or whatever it's been, 2-3 weeks, and the episode is still climbing. But I'm seeing all the reaction, I'm seeing all the headlines, I'm seeing all the stuff. I say Errol, you still got the juice, because the boxing community, sports community, they leaning in saying, man, what is Errol Spence talking about, man? I want to lean in. And the takeaway was 90% solid, but we just wanted to address the 10%. We don't always like to address the 10%. We shouldn't address the 10%. Matter of fact, we should walk past the 10% most of the time, but every now and again.
Instead of taking the easy route, he accepted one of the toughest challenges available. That decision tells you he still believes the old Errol Spence is alive and ready to remind the boxing world exactly who he is. Meanwhile, Tszyu isn't intimidated by past accomplishments or championship history. He respects Spence for accepting the challenge, but he also believes this comeback couldn't have come at a worse time for the former champion. That's what makes this fight so dangerous. Confidence is overflowing on both sides. One fighter believes experience and championship pedigree will take him back to the top, while the other is convinced he's about to stop one of boxing's biggest comeback stories before it truly begins. Suddenly, July 26th feels much bigger than an ordinary fight night. It feels like two careers crashing into each other with everything at stake.
In his upcoming fight, I see what y'all are trying to do. We a lot smarter than y'all realize. He said, but it's not going to work. Not this time. I appreciate that from Terrence Crawford. And I called Errol and I said, Errol, I said, hey man, focus on the 90%, bro. Don't focus on them 10%, because the 10% can seem very, very loud. I don't understand where they coming from. I said, but we, your peers and the people that get it, we respect you, bro, because that was the biggest moment of your professional boxing career that had been talked about for years. And it didn't go your way. That was a devastating loss, and you took that, you shouldered that like a man, and you never made one excuse. All we did was sit and talk about it and have a real conversation, and we invited the world in to our personal conversation. So Errol did nothing wrong. Errol didn't make any excuse.
Right after Spence and Tszyu traded knockout predictions during their intense face-off, Terrence Crawford entered the conversation without throwing a single insult, yet somehow managed to make the entire situation even bigger. The first thing that stood out was how quickly Bud revealed whose side he was on. He confirmed that he'll be traveling to Australia to support Spence. And honestly, that's something I respect, because too many people act as if friendships disappear the moment competition gets involved.
Closing anything we didn't have?
Nah. Just I'm definitely a fan of boxing. You know, I'm gonna be in Australia. I'm gonna be.
I know you're gonna be over there. Yeah,
I'm gonna be supporting Spence, rooting him on.
Yeah.
You know, I just like to support, you know, fighters in his own right. I done been in Boots' locker room supporting him. You know, so yeah, it's just crazy how the tables turn. You know, when people get to a certain plateau and they forget about things like that.
Crawford explained that he'll always be a fan of boxing first. He reminded everyone that he has supported many fighters throughout his career and believes loyalty shouldn't disappear simply because people online disagree. He even joked that after everything that's been said, they'll probably have to face each other in person. But that's just part of the sport, and honestly, that's the right attitude. You can predict one fighter to win without making it personal. Crawford also mentioned that fans overseas often disagree respectfully, while some people treat a simple prediction like a personal insult. That's a fair observation.
Yeah, I know you heard everything I said, so
I told him to his face.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But it's cool. It's cool to be and this is what I don't understand why people take it so hurtful. When we in like England and places like that or overseas, like they tell you, and it's okay, like, hey, you're a great fighter, but I think he's gonna win. Afterwards, it's all cool. It's just
In Crawford's opinion, people spend so much time arguing over predictions that they forget nobody truly knows what will happen after the opening bell. He also made it clear that if your prediction turns out to be wrong, you should accept it, congratulate the winner, and move on instead of making excuses. More fans could learn from that mindset. Looking at the bigger picture, one thing is obvious. Even those closest to the sport see this matchup as incredibly difficult to call. Crawford believes Spence still has enough left to win despite the lengthy layoff, while many others feel Tszyu's recent activity and momentum give him the advantage. That's exactly the kind of disagreement that produces unforgettable fight night. When the people inside the sport can't agree on the outcome, you know something special could be about to happen.
Me, when it goes the other way, I say, hey, I wasn't in that man's camp. I don't know what he was up to. I wasn't with him the night before his fight. I don't know what he was up to. When he went
That's an excuse. You make an excuse.
When he went in the ring and did something I didn't think he was gonna do, I ain't know.
No, you gotta just say I was wrong. Just say I was wrong. Congratulations.
Hey, be easy, bud. We'll see you next week.
While Crawford supported Spence because of friendship and belief, Mendoza offered something much more valuable: personal experience. He's actually shared the ring with Spence, and that instantly gives his opinion extra credibility. What really caught my attention was Mendoza rejecting the idea that Spence is returning only for one final payday. According to Brian, that's not the fighter he witnessed. He explained that every sparring session became more difficult because Spence constantly adjusted his approach overnight. Imagine landing a clean shot one day only to discover it no longer works the next because your opponent has already figured it out. That's not the sign of a faded veteran. That's proof that his boxing IQ is still operating at an elite level. Mendoza also reminded everyone of something many fans overlook. Before Spence became famous for relentless pressure and brutal body attacks, he was an Olympic-caliber boxer with exceptional technical skills.
I think that he's done. He's just showing up for a check. I've heard that a lot. You know, a lot of people critiquing. He's not working like someone that's showing up for a check. The work ethic I got to see in the couple weeks I was there, and obviously just from literally being in the ring with him, you know, sharing the ring, working with him, there was adjustments every day. He's not someone that's just showing up and just, you know, clocking in and be like, all right, let's, you know, go through the motions and do the same thing. He was making adjustments. You know, I was catching him with shots the first day we sparred. The second day we sparred, those shots were not landing. I had to figure something else out.
Errol Spence.
Exactly, yeah. People forget, you know, they know he's a pressure fighter.
That aggressive style became his trademark because it brought success, not because it was the only weapon he possessed. I think that's an important reminder because when a fighter dominates using one approach, people often forget how many other skills remain available. Mendoza also tested Spence's durability and admitted he landed some heavy shots without seeing him fall apart. That definitely stood out. Of course, sparring and fight night are two completely different things, and nobody should confuse them. Still, first-hand experience matters. The comment that stayed with me the most was Mendoza comparing training camp to a game of chess, rather than a simple fight. Fighters don't hand out compliments like that very often. He left Houston believing Spence is still focused on improving every day instead of protecting his legacy. So, while many people see this comeback as a farewell tour, Mendoza sees something entirely different. A former champion quietly rebuilding himself while everyone else is already trying to write the ending before the story is finished.
I can try to be like, oh, you know, let's see what we can do. Like he's fully locked in. He cares about improving each and every day, and that's what I respected. And you know, at the end of the day, I even told him, you know, when I was leaving that, like, you know, I appreciate him having me out. That it was just fun, you know, being in that type of high-level chess match again, where I can't just, you know, I'm not just using the same bag of tricks every day. I have to go home from the sparring and think about, okay, well, what am I going to do next time? You caught me with this. Those are signs of someone that is really...
Greg Hackett wanted to discuss everything happening beyond the ring. Interestingly, he wasn't interested in taking sides just because a camera was pointed at him. What stood out immediately was the respect he showed both Errol Spence and Derek James. Even so, he believes much of the criticism directed at the trainer misses the bigger picture. His point was straightforward. When a fighter enters the biggest fight of his career while dealing with injuries, a coach is no longer working under perfect conditions. That's a reality many fans tend to overlook. Hackett kept returning to one word: accountability. His message was clear. A trainer can teach, prepare, and make adjustments, but once a fighter walks out of the gym, every decision they make is ultimately their own responsibility.
Gotta hold back because he injured. We don't want him to be more injured by the time we get to the fight. So, I mean, I think it plays a part more on Errol than it did Derek James, because you you already hurt. And on top of that, Derrick James is not responsible for when you leave the gym. That's not his. Whatever you do outside the gym, that's not his fault. You know what I'm saying? When you was in that car and you banged out.
Subscribe to Boxiverse X for the latest boxing breakdowns, expert fight predictions, and all the biggest stories from the world of boxing.